Dr. Christopher Nehring is Academic Director of German Spy Museum, in Berlin, Germany. He has a PhD in Intelligence and Eastern European History from the University of Heidelberg, Germany. The Geopost conducted an interview with Mr. Nehring on current developments in Europe, Ukraine and the Western Balkans.
Russian influence in the Balkans is a topic that is constantly addressed by policy experts. How present do you think this influence is, and who enables Russia to be present in this region?
Well, first of all, I think Russia is very present in Southeastern Europe. It's present all over Europe, for that matter, and it has spent years, well, let's say decades, to build up the mechanism and instruments we can now see Russia using during the war in Ukraine for spreading propaganda and disinformation.
Kremlin-funded disinformation poses a threat to truth-telling about important events. How widespread do you think this disinformation is in Europe? Does Kremlin achieve its purpose?
Well, let's say it like this: Russia has put a lot of efforts and money and resources into building up networks of propaganda and disinformation and Kremlin-sponsored media. How present they are differs from country to country. In some countries, they are extremely present because local media has adapted contents of, let's say, Sputnik or Russia Today. In some other countries, they, for example, in Serbia, some of the bigger radio stations or other printed media have agreements with Russia Today and Sputnik, and they just adapt the content produced by them. In other countries, for example, in Germany, Russia Today or Sputnik, let's say the leaders of what they call alternative media, that is basically media that opposes everything the other mainstream media and governments say. And what we can witness there is that they have limited outreach, let's say. They stay within their own echo chambers, and they reach an audience, but they don't reach the majority of the society or the people. Yet, what is the let's say one particularly dangerous feature about that is that they are always there and try to provide some alternative interpretation of events, and the constant stream of that sort of disinformation, propaganda, and false information is posing a constant threat and pressure towards quality media, towards journalism, towards politics.
In addition to the atrocities committed by Russia in Ukraine, this war is presented by the Russian propaganda as a so-called special military operation. How much do you think Russian disinformation affects the opinion of Russian citizens about the war in Ukraine? In your opinion, does this propaganda have a wider impact?
I'd say in Russia herself, in the domestic realm, the way the Kremlin and Russian state media presents the war does have a wider effect, especially since they shut down all non-government media and all foreign broadcasting stations. So they try to establish their version as the only version. Let's say what we can also witness from inside Russia is that more and more people try to circumvent the ban of foreign media stations. For example, as you may know, I work as a journalist for the German foreign news broadcaster Deutsche Welle. And what we could see there was an increase in the Russian language program, especially online, by people using VPNs, Tor browsers to circumvent the Russian censorship of these media. So it also sparks on an increase, which of course is only true for the younger part of the population. On the other hand, concerning the Russian propaganda version of the events in Ukraine and the war in Western Europe, or let's say outside of Russia, I think this only has a limited outreach. Mainly perhaps amongst Russians living abroad, but the official Russian state television or other state media is not big in countries other than Russia. So I'd say that they have only that the official Russian media has a very limited outreach in countries other than Russia.
How do you see the end of the war in Ukraine?
Well, of course, this is the million dollar question, and I think there are two sides to it. The first is the military end, which is very hard to predict. I'd say the most likely event, judging from what has happened so far and how things are going at the moment, I think that the most likely outcome is that the conflict during some time will be frozen, and there will be let's say a temporary sort of a temporary agreement, and let's say a new Cold War. If you think about the Berlin scenario after World War II, when there was a wall built dividing not only one country but the entire continent. This is an event I can imagine is pretty likely to happen somewhere in the near future, that parts of Ukraine will remain occupied for a longer time. Every other possible outcome, I think, is first of all less likely, and second of all depends on events that are hard to foresee. Let's say, for example, what happens inside the Kremlin, whether there will rise any serious opposition towards Vladimir Putin or not. It will also depend on the military events, on just how successful Ukraine can fight this war. So I'd say in summary, the most likely event is that the conflict will be frozen somewhere either at the end of this year or next year, but it will remain like a new Cold War in Europe for the next decades, I think.